Alright, my name is Drummer. I am putting in another edition of The Old Woman That Crossed the Road. This is a Sarsak Redeem on over on Twitch. So, and it's an improv story. So, buckle in, ready for some chop. Well, our story left off. We just got done at a demon town with a human raid that ended up raiding the village. Shortly after we got there, we defended the village, pretty much did some recompense with the raiders. So there wasn't any hard blood, and pretty much do a thing to where pretty much made a thing to where they pretty much made it to where there was no major conflict after, and actually made it to where the raiders actually had to pay for their crimes, of course, but not in the normal sense of the word. Um, Basically, they have to stay there at the town and live by by live by the demons. They are allowed to defend themselves if attacked, but if they provoke them, they're not allowed to defend themselves. Um, and basically, um, they don't have to do anything. The demon village is still going to supply them with food for the next 10 years and a place to stay. Most almost everybody of the humans that actually got bound by the fact ended up basically um is going to help around the town for more supplies, more things along the way. They're basically bartering, hey, we'll help you build this X house to make it better for us to live in a little bit more comfortably, or to have a little bit cooler food, or to have some sweets in the house, or just to help out in general. Well, this was all possible due to Lunar's ability that she didn't know that she had until she got done speaking with these people. Well, the thing that really tipped the scales in a lot of this is one thing that we don't know yet is um the person leading the attack was the prince of the former kingdom that we were in. She knew who the prince was during this time, and there was a deal struck because the reason why he was hated the demon so much is somebody killed his mother in a brutal fashion, and it was always said it was a demon. But lo and behold, there's another person in that town that was actually looking for his mother's death too. You'll find out a little bit more about that situation here in just a little bit. Um, but the short of the story is, um, these raiders raided the town. They got stopped, and now they have to do the due pen thing in the town. And because of Lunar's voice, that was able to cut through the thick of it. Because Lunar has a ever since she got her new abilities, she has a special ability that comes out anytime she talks that basically cuts through the bullshit. It, it's not mind control, it's not any mental control whatsoever. What it does is simply just cuts out the middleman when figuring out how things are working. Like, um, like for instance, if two men, extremely racist men, were arguing with each other, she would come up, which that's kind of what was happening. Is a demon and a human were arguing with each other, with and back and forth. One set in stone that that demon is the most evil thing on the face of the planet, and the demon is set in stone that that human, all he wants to do is kill him for no apparent reason at all. So generally, what happened is when she talks to them, it cuts through the feelings, it cuts through and actually hits them more in a manner of, it basically just cuts through the bigotry. It cuts through the hatred, cuts through the self loathing, and it cuts through like the self taught crap that it may have been taught for years in a country. Or because of this or that. And it basically allows the two people to actually talk together without bias. Or without bias whatsoever, and to actually get to know that they're just as much have the same humanity as humans do. They're just as intelligent. They're a lot alike in a lot of different fashions, and it allows it to cut through that, which is something she figured out on her last trip. Well, then they went to there was a demon army on their way to try to figure out what they were doing, and they basically decided that they were going to split ways at this juncture, but then they met up with the demon army. That is where we're at now. Um so this is the actual beginning of the story. 8 minutes in. Sorry about that. Um well, immediately, without even a half a thought, while talking to the commander of the base, Lunar automatically, you saw her eyes start glowing and she started pushing outward, creating a barrier over general attacks that were happening at the military encampment, which pissed her off because they were just trying to respond to a threat that the humans were about to depose, and she knows for a fact that um the human king does not want a war with the demons, not because he's scared or anything of them, but because he actually learned better. Well, and one other thing I do want to add here, when I say demons, they're not literal demons. It's just a term that they coined for them. And this race of basically sentient monsters just was looking past all of it. Well, they just look past it and they just, okay, whatever. We'll just be like, they're like minotaurs, slimes, and a bunch of things in that nature. Um, and they were called that by ancient humans, of course. True demons, are another different story, and they are evil. Well, I just wanted to put that FYI out there just to clear any deceptions up about that. But anyway, there was a massive magical attack brought against the demon army, unprerogative. Um, as Dr. Zay, the guild leader, and Sarzak, the necromancer, and Sierra look back at Lunar for a second, they realize they all ask almost in unison, "What's going on?" The humans are attacking, is all she said before she just disappeared. Like, poof. And they were like, "What the?" It's like, what in the world's going on here? Even the demon general was like, what the? And next thing they know, they just disappear, including the demon general, everybody in the hut. And they're at the right dead in the center of the entire encampment between the human army and the demon army. I'm just going to start calling that a demon lord army. That way it's more respectful to what they really are. Well, as the two armies are back by back each other, the human army thought that they had the they thought that they struck it at the right time, but they didn't, of course. Um so this woman trained just appear out of nowhere. And then just a few seconds later, these people appeared behind her. And then in a loud voice, it says, "What is the meaning of this?" Screaming it at the top of her lungs. She was pissed. And it was like a force field or something. Started bearing down on both sides of the troop. Everyone crashing to the ground. Some of them, some people couldn't breathe. Some people were like, could barely get two breaths in. Some, I mean, it was basically, if you've ever read anything about cultivators or anything, it was just them letting their cultivation and proving that. And it flattened hundreds of people on both sides of the field. Hundreds of sentient beings were just basically laid to waste, not dead, not yet at least. Um, but and all you can see is just the pure rage on her face. Um, somebody in the very back of the troop jumps forward and lands a hammer right there to try to find out what is going on, why so many of his troops all of a sudden just hit the floor. Well, um, after a second of him trying to figure out what was going on, he realized who he was facing. Um, this guy is a this guy was a veteran commander in the human army for years. Um, by the way, if you guys don't mind, check that guy's YouTube video out. Um, over encumbered, does some amazing stuff. He with guitar and he uses all sorts of editing software and everything. It's fire. But anyway, back to the story at hand. As soon as he saw her, his eyes like bulged. He knew her because of a previous battle that they were in a long time ago when the human army tried to take over the the hidden village that she was from. He didn't mind. He wasn't exactly a general back then, but he is a general now. But as soon as he saw her, he knew that if something don't stand, their entire army of about 1 million troops, no joke, would be flattened in a blink of an eye. He's seen it happen before. And they thought um, the prince, but now king, was captured by this village, even though it's basically the same situation that was going on in the previous village. But anyway, basically that's how she got her idea for. And then all of a sudden, he raised up his hands both like this. Is like, calm down, Luna. Or actually, he said, calm down, blood or blood mist fist. Um, Lunar of the blood mist is what she was calling out, but he was like, even he, one of the most powerful human warriors in the land, was having a hard time standing up. Like this guy could actually go toe to toe with the demon lord if he really wanted to. Well, anyway, going back to the story, like, whoa, 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 our fight is not with you. We did not mean to attack you at whatsoever. We're just trying to. And then immediately, um, shouts out, "Shut the fuck up!" Like, whoa. And he sees her just one step in. Just, let's talk about this. You need to calm down. I don't want all my people slaughtered here. And then all you could hear from her is like, you should have thought of that before you randomly attacked the demons without no provocation whatsoever. And he's like, let us, let us talk. And then he falls down to his knee, starting to gasp. And then when she actually sees him fall, she realizes what's going on, and then she reels in her anger and actually lets up the pressure that was harming all these people. Miraculously, nobody died, but subconsciously, it was her not wanting anybody to die as well. Well, he starts coughing for a second. Like, why are you attacking the demon army unprovoked? He's like, unprovoked, you say? Not just a little while ago, Sarzak, the vampire lord, was going and terrorizing our people and killed a whole bunch of people in our lands. And then on top of that, the we're heading to the village that they were just at. Um, he named the village, and he was like, for that unjustly imprisonment. She said for a second, it was like, unjustly imprisonment, and starts laughing for a second. They weren't unjustly imprisoned, and they're not in a prison nonetheless. If you guys don't stop your advance, it's going to be just like the village all those years ago. And he immediately, his eyes wide open, like, take us to your tent with these people behind me and the demon general, and we're going to sit down and actually talk out what's going on, which kind of still pisses me off because you guys should already have the information from the Adventurers Guild already, explaining Sarzak the Necromancer was never there, but it was another ploy in general to try to force a war. So let's go. And then she flicks her fingers, hits the ground, and then you see her hand start glowing green. And then she does the same thing. Her other hand starts growing bright brown. And then the next thing you see a um 12 trees grow up about halfway, branch with the branches out beard. And then the next thing you see is like bricks or like a liquid substance that looked like liquefied brick come up beside each tree. Basically, when she was done, it was like a row of 6 trees about um from end to end in a rectangle type deal, about 80 feet in general. It's about the size of a normal house, a normal like trailer. Um, Brick along the wall with the Just think about it if it was like a tree house that was just off the ground, probably about 10 feet, and then the branches go over the brick that was on the side of the that actually covered for all the walls and the floor, and then the trees itself actually covered for the roofing. So where they had like trees growing up, it was just amazing. I wish I could draw the picture in my head, but just right in the middle, her arm starts glowing, and then she does something that with a little silver thing that in both of her hands, where like this liquid metal just came up out of the ground and go to the only opening inside what this pretty much this like treehouse looking thing. These metal stairs going off there, but then proceeded with spikes coming out both sides of the door. And then when she was done, all of us were walking in there and we're getting this figured out now. And she looked over there at the general and is like, and you better have the that particular artifact on you, or this might be a short conversation. He's like, that's a top. I don't care. Okay, yes, we do. I have it just like any other. Okay, let's go. The Sarzak, the Demon Lord General, or the Demon General, um, Doctor Zay, the guild leader, which is actually about to here in later episodes, is going to expand the guild, and Lunar and Sarah all on go in there. He brings a few more of his commanders in there with him just for that people that he can actually trust. One of the commanders like, why are we acting like we're surrendering to the? And then immediately the the general just smacks him in the face and is like, shut up, commander. Why no? That woman right there is known as um Lunar, the Moon Blood Fist. Then his eyes, as soon as he saw the name, it was like, what? Yes. And she is 3 times more powerful, at the very least, since the last time that we met. Um, it was like, oh my. And then he just shut up, just completely. They all pack in there. They all sit down at the chairs that basically like wood stumps with a brick like table in the middle with metal backings to each of the stumps that were coming up at the chair. And it only sectioned like half of the place. The rest of the place, for some reason, had like beds and everything in it. And he was like, that was an odd choice. And since when was you able to use magic? He's like, I'm not the same as I was. And also, the reason why I look like I'm 18 years old now, the last time you seen me, like 120 years ago. He's like, God, has it been that long? Wait, 100? No, it was about like 100 years ago. Eh, something like that. But anyway, explain to me, tell your side of the story first so I can calm down and figure out what's going on. She said sharply. Alright, this is with the attacks from the demons with Sarzak. There was some information brought to us, but we didn't know what was true or what was not, which really pissed Dr. Zay off. And he actually said, "Excuse me." Lunar put his hand up. We'll talk here in a second. We need to get down to the nitty gritty right quick before we move on. Well, he's like, he gritted his teeth and sit back down. But then he recognized who. And she looks at him and is like, Frank, continue. Like, yes, ma'am. And then a cold chill. What did I tell you about calling me that last time? Okay, 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 okay. Well, anyway. Okay, yes, master. That better? Look, like, what did I tell you about calling me? Just call me by my name. He was like, okay, I'm not gonna argue, but continuing along with the story. Um, with that happening, and yes, we had heard reports that it was stopped by you, but I didn't even believe it until now. We went to the village that was about to be attacked, there by Sarzak and the Vampire Lord, which made Sarzak cringe a little bit and said under his breath, "How does everybody assume I am a vampire? I fucking hate vampires." But Frank continued on. We went to the town, got information on what was going on, and learned that the town was mainly entirely of undead and regular people. We thought they were taken over at first, but then was explained to what actually happened, and then realized that all these people weren't actually dead, but only like half dead, which was weird. It's like we had there was a curse a long time ago that made us like this, but then Lunar, a adventurer, came in, helped us, and did the spell that kind of helped that regained half of our life back. We're not dead and we're not alive. It's like we're half dead. Tarzak puts up an AI and looks at it. It's like, really? That's some high level white magic. Says out loud, with Frank looking at him and realizing who he is. And his face shadowed for a second, and then he is like, "Okay." After getting reports about there, we actually then immediately hearing the king give us an order that we need to head to the town that they were just at, um, in a rush, that the prince needed our help. And on our way to the town, we saw this big ass demon army, and in order to protect the prince, I thought they were coming to actually execute him. Lunar stretched out a hand and hit him in the face. This is what starts wars. You do realize that, right? Lunar said sharply to him, like nearly wanting to slap. You've always been over eager to please the king. Even back when you were my frickin' apprentice. Or that's whatever you want to call it. You just basically wouldn't leave me alone until I taught you a few things. Probably the only reason why you're still alive at this point. But anyway, okay, this is basically what's going on. And for one, you guys need to actually get in contact with the Adventures Guild and actually trust what they're saying. This Sarzak right here is the actual Sarzak, the Necromancer. Is that any better than a vampire? Yes, because this guy has never sacrificed a human being in his life for his craft. He uses his own life energy, and he's also basically immortal. Getting in a fight with him would be deadly for the entire planet. Two, we stopped that. We also helped the village in the human territories. We helped a lot of villages on our way over there, including the um and even including the other village that was going to get wiped off the face of the map, that you guys probably didn't hear about because you didn't talk to the Adventures Guild at all, or didn't trust them for some reason. With and keep in mind, the second in command of the Adventures Guild is actually sitting at the very last table when Dr. Zay finally looked down and realized. He was like, "What the fuck are you doing here?" Interrupting Lunar. She looks down at the table and is like, "Sorry, Lunar. He's the second in command of the entire forces. He's the second in command of not the entire forces." He hit his head. It's like, duh. He's second in command of the guild, the Adventurers Guild. Looks down and is like, "So let me get this straight. You had the second in command of the Adventurers Guild with you?" "Yeah, we hired them." "But you don't trust them enough to." She started itching her head. It's like, "Go on." I'm gonna. Well, anyway, after that happened, we stopped the attack that the fake Sarzak, which we now know is a vampire lord called Fullbane, was basically there to extinct hatred in between the humans and demons because a certain party in the demon territory wants to wipe out all the humans, or so they claim. What do you mean, so they claim? Frank said with a certain face. We have reason to expect that this newly founded demon party doesn't actually want a war between humanity and demons, but wants to take the world entirely and conquer it. The best way to do so, because this world has magic, is to undermine them. He looks up and is like, to undermine them? Yeah, to undermine all the governments so they all attack each other, lower the population of the place, then the and then whatever force they actually have will come in, conquer the entire planet, and use all the resources here, turn the rest of the people more than likely in either slaves or human or different experiment that will create more soldiers for them. Or at least that's the running theory at the moment. We are actually heading to go confirm that. And the general over here, we was just talking to him just before you guys, they were just responding to a threat of a human hate group threatening to raid this town and take over the take over the pretty much raid the town and kill all the demons. So they were actually trying to rush there to protect them, to protect the village. That's the reason why the army forces here are a fraction of yours. You were heading there for looks like conquest. You're trying to protect the prince. I know the prince was there. So you know the prince can't be held a prisoner in a demon country. For one, he's the one that was leading the raid group. I understand why he was leading the raid group because of all the stuff that happened to the queen. Is once you hear that Lane, your mother was killed by a demon, cold blood, and half eaten, things get a little bit hairy for the guy. But he won't be returning at the moment, and he's also no longer there. Wait, what? The communication device with the king. Turn it on right now. Like, but we have to turn it on. And he's like, now I'll provide, me and Sarzak will provide the power for it, so you won't cost you guys any actual resources on both ends. I thought, trust me. Then, like, he takes this thing out of the he takes two things out of each pocket, combines them together. These two things, it looks like a little stone circle with little metal things coming out. It basically looks like a um one of the super duper high tech Wi-Fi things that have antennas all the way around the plastic, but think of it being stone with. Well, anyway, they set it right there in the middle. They hit the button, and it starts flicker on. Both Sarzak and Lunar both fluctuates a lot of their magic inside the thing, and it automatically turned on. He was like, "Report directly to the king. Report." Yes, my lord. But there was a problem that we have, and I have somebody here that needs to talk to you. What is the? You know the. Well, it ain't actually taking any. Who wants to talk to me? Lunar the Bloodfest. His like facial features just go pale. Like, why the hell are you at that village? They're not, sir. He's like, she don't leave the village. She has never left that village. Why the hell are you at the like? Because I'm not at the village anymore. An incident that happened that basically my allowed some of the my genetics to actually finally take hold into me. Like, he just turns around on the this thing basically is a projector. Like, you see in those sci-fi shows where they have like the human body, like in Star Wars and Star Trek, and he looks around and actually sees her and is like, "So now I know where the since when can you do magic?" Said it just like that. Uh, better start talking to me like a normal human being and not one of your subordinates. He slaps his face. I'm sorry, it's just been a long day. And you know how my boy is being taken away. It's like, okay, for one, your boy led an attack of a bunch of marauders and a bunch of people that hated demons against a town trying to wipe them out. His face goes pale. Don't, I don't want to. I know why he did it. I know why he's there, and I know anybody in this room now. And he looks at the demon general too. You repeat it to any of this to your superiors, I'll kill you all myself. Like, yes, ma'am. Looked at him with an evil glare. Like, yes, Luna. And she even recognized Lunar the Bloodfist. Well, basically, um, after he said that, he looks around, like, and proceeds to tell him what was going on. It's like they attacked the village. We thwarted the attack. They didn't have much of combatants there to begin with on the demon side of things. I basically flattened out the situation, got both parties to understand that they were both wrong in a lot of ways and both right in some ways. And I came up with a compromise that um, helps out both parties. What was that compromise? Basically, the human attackers have to stay in that village for 10 years. It's up to them if they want to bring their families and stuff there. That's completely their business, which a lot of them did after we got done with the talk. And I will explain how all that happened at a later date. But long story short, though, it's an ability that I had that I have now that basically just cuts to the thick of it and actually gets down to the meat of things and not let bigotry or stuff get in the way. He was like, okay, I've heard of abilities like that before, and if you unlocked your true potential, no telling what you could do. Yeah, I know. Trying to worship me like a goddess there. And that was before my magic. Do you realize I'm different than most people, right? The king said. And it and like I said, this stays in this room, whatever said. She iterated that herself, including with some of the people. I am able to tell people's true potential. And as soon as I saw you, that's one of the reasons why we stopped our attack right after I came into the scene. It's something I didn't tell you because your true potential is so frightening that it's not even funny. He was like, "What do you mean?" I knew that weren't you were actually a combination of three different races. Gee, why didn't you ever tell me? It wasn't my place to, and you never asked. Which I never told you I had this ability either because top secret. And I swear, if the Demon King don't need to find out about this either. It's like anything that we say here with you have my word. The the demon general said will not leak from here, not even to the um demon lord himself. As for respect for Lunar for saving our asses. If it wasn't for her, we'd all be dead right now. And then he did this weird little thing on his hand and then pressed down, causing this thing to, like a tattoo to pop up. And it's basically a blood oath. If he ever goes to leak the information, he would die immediately. Any information he is told not to at this meeting. He's like, you'd go that far for. Without her, we'd all be dead in that first attack. She has a genuineness about her that I've never seen in such a person. And with the reports that we got shortly after, what she says is true. She saved multiple lives, and none of us want a war or a repeat of the War of Ages. Something is trying to, and that's what I was trying to figure out what was actually going on with everything when she came into the camp. Well, anyway, but yes, and I even saw your cultivation level and everything too back then. I unfortunately I can't use that ability through the hologram here, but what type of potential did it say that I had? Like I was some sort of god or something? Just shut up for a second. It's like, all right, the power scale of gods is way different than we know it of man. There's the highest, the ones that are beyond our universe. Then there is people that we call gods that are just powerful creatures that have a similar form of immortality. You are up there with, and then you have planetary gods, which are people like All right, I'm breaking character for a second. Pretty much the scale that he's talking about is think about like the Thor, like the Norse pagan gods with Loki and stuff. Um, then like Zeus, Hades, and those gods right there are basically what he's talking about as planetary gods, people that hold tremendous power, but is planetary. Um, then unseen gods, which are galaxy wide, then um universal gods, and then his after that he has no comprehension of what anything after that would be. It's basically just a power structure and not them actually being gods, but very powerful beings that lived at that had next to unhumanly that talks about them and everything. Well, he was basically explaining that structure, but with the gods of that universe, which nobody would know. That's the reason why I broke character to explain that for a little bit. Well, after all that was said, and said that you are beyond anything that I've ever saw before. Potential, your potential is beyond a universal God. Her eyes opened up like, whoa. And I was like, all right, well, back to the what's. So, my son is out there at that village chat for 10 years. You, of all people, know that that can't happen. Well, he's not particularly at that village. Like, what? He came there basically with a raiding arm, a raiders, wanting to find out. He's basically just pissed off and wanted to eliminate all demons and find out what happened to his mother. Well, at that turn of events, he was like, well, he shook his head. So why ain't he at the village too then? If he was the one leading him, I understood what he was actually wanting, and after our long talk with him that we had, we found an alternative for because we know that he doesn't need to be chapped down at any one point anyway, because we don't want the same thing that happened to his mother that happened to him too. So, what do you mean we? I had no. We means his uncle. His uncle is the one that actually could. If you honestly believe that, I will over to your kingdom and slap you myself. And it was like, whoa, okay. And two, I would not put Ariel's um son at risk at all either. You know that. She was my friend too. And her brother has been looking for the actual killer himself. He raised up his eyes and he what? That's the reason why everybody thought that he was the one killing him because he was looking into it more than anybody else was, and they just kind of figured why not blame him? It's easy to get out of the way. But what he did find out is another demon was actually killed him or killed her. And we think that it's a demon part of this group, but he wanted to protect his nephew, and he knew that he wasn't safe with you or and with him going around and actually finding out real information, it would do two things. Plus, the third thing is that he would gradually teach him about his inheritance of his demon side too. The demon general looks over and is like, his what? And looks over, it's none of your business. Like, okay. He looks in and is like, okay.